Well, joining me now are Allan and Bonnie Gallant. Welcome to 700 Club Canada.
Thank you, Lori.
It's good to be with you.
Well, in your book, The Beautiful Strokes of God, I love the title, you and Bonnie share how a stroke led you into a mental health crisis as a pastor of over 30 years. So what did that mental health crisis look like, Allan?
Well, it was very ugly, to be honest with you. Before the stroke happened to me and I went into a deeper mental health struggle, I was struggling for years with depression and anxiety, a lot of fear, and I just couldn't shake it. But after the stroke, it seemed like it magnified. It really just blew the depression, the anxiety, the fear. I was having so many panic attacks. Some of it was because of the PTSD that I suffered because of the stroke. But I went into a very ugly state. I couldn't control my thoughts or my behaviors. It was just a very scary time for me and my family.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure there's people watching that just could relate on so many levels. And what a journey for you. And Bonnie, you were right there through it all. What was your experience like when Allan was going through this very difficult crisis?
I guess the first thing I would say, I really felt alone because at first I was very embarrassed of the fact that my husband was going through a mental health crisis. And, we've always learned to be strong. And so I kept this to myself at first. The other thing was I was constantly by Allan's side. Due to the panic attacks, I couldn't leave him. So I was literally 24/7 for at least 6 weeks, if not longer, that I snuck out one day to try to go get groceries. And it didn't end well at all. So it was I felt very helpless, very frustrated. And to be quite frank, at times I felt very trapped and angry because I didn't know how to help him and he wasn't able to tell me what was going on. And that made me very frustrated.
I just didn't know what to say.
He didn't know what to say.
She was asking me all kinds of questions about how you're feeling, why you're feeling this way. But it was so bizarre because I couldn't, even though I was thinking thoughts, they were so intrusive that I couldn't really think normally or even how to help her understand what was going inside of me.
Wow. Wow. I mean, here's two of you really in a mental health crisis. I mean, a crisis on multiple levels. And so it doesn't just affect one person, it affects people around them, as you've already illustrated to us. And Allan, you've been a pastor of many years. And here you see, obviously, there's hindrances for the church providing care for those suffering from mental health issues and providing care to their spouses. So what are your thoughts on that? What are the hindrances, do you think?
Yeah, so just to give you some very quick preface to that question. So when I was in my worst state, I went to the church to help me. And to make a long story short, they didn't know how to help me. So the hindrances are that many churches and leadership just don't know enough about mental health. They seem to look at it as only a spiritual problem, which can be, no doubt. But it affects you so deeply that many churches just are scared of it, and they don't talk about it because of the stigma. The word stigma means a mark of disgrace. So many people that are suffering, they don't want to talk about it either because they don't want to be labeled as weak or maybe in sin or, maybe demonized. But I think the church is so scared, and they're just not a conversation that we had over time. But the good news is that many churches are starting to talk about it, and the stigma is breaking inside the walls of the church. But we have a long way to go.
Sure do.
Yeah.
was going to say, when Allan was admitted into the mental health ward and that whole process, he had said to me, don't tell anybody where I'm at and what's going on. I mean, even for myself, I thought, I can't believe we're here. Like, I just can't believe this is what has taken place. And after one night of being there, that's when Allan said, you need to share this story. And of course, social media seems to be a platform. And I did. And we had, did you say hundreds?
Oh, yeah. Hundreds
of responses of thanking us for being open and honest. And some people were able to share their journey with us too.
Well, I think you've just hit so much right on the head there, that stigma keeps us in silence.
Oh, yeah.
And when we silence ourselves, we're not able to receive help, nor are we able to give it. So that we need to unpack this more. We'll be right back to continue the conversation on mental health with Allan and Bonnie Gallant.